Hello, friends, and welcome to the second episode of our podcast, Fandom. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the basic elements of fandom, which is shipping. So, if you remember from our last episode, the term to ship something means to root for two characters in any given fandom to get together romantically. So, the first thing we're going to do is define a couple of terms for you, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is OTPs, no TPs, and bro TPs. So, do you want to define them for our friends, our listeners?
Okay, so OTP, it means one true pairing, like a ship that is canon, right?
It doesn't necessarily have to be canon. It just means the ship that you like the best, the one you root for the most.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Okay, I don't remember the second one. No TP,
No
like,
TP. So it's basically a ship that you sort of really don't like, one that you would hate to
okay.
see get together.
Okay, I missed that one. And Bro TP, it's like a couple you see really well as like brothers or siblings or something. Am I
Yeah.
mistaken?
Yeah, you
Okay,
don't necessarily root for them to get together romantically, but you like their interactions and their relationship. Yeah, as friends.
cool. Okay.
Awesome. And as she mentioned, there was is the term canon as opposed to the term fanon. So the term canon means for a ship that is together in the show. It's part of the actual fabric of the show or the book or whatever. So, for example, in Criminal Minds, a canon ship would be JJ and Will. And then the opposite of that is a fanon ship, which is a show that fans root for, but isn't necessarily part of the fabric of the show.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Want to give us an example?
yeah. So, and like I said, JJ and Will is a canon ship. What would you? Can you give us an example of a popular fanon ship?
Well, it's not that popular, but it's popular for us, which is Morgan and Prentice in Criminal Minds.
Absolutely. So that's a it's pretty popular now, but it wasn't at the beginning. Um, so yeah, some other fanon ships that are pretty popular are JJ and Emily or Hotch and Reed. Those are some of the most prevalent ships that you see in fanon.
Yes, correct.
So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of shipping something that is canon or as opposed to fanon. So um, I granted, I don't know that I really ship anything that's canon in Criminal Minds or any other show for that matter. But I think that the nice thing about shipping something that's canon is that you get a lot of content from the actual show itself to work with. You get scenes with them together. And when you're shipping something that's fanon, you don't really get that content that is creator approved and in interviews and stuff like that, um, the the actors are more likely to talk about a ship that is canon. They'll give you more details. They can give you stuff about the thought process behind it, and it gives you sort of background information.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, yeah. So, what would you say are some of the benefits of shipping something that's fanon?
Well, in my opinion, is that, for example, in some show, the truth can't ruin your ship, like maybe making them broke up or stuff like that. But on the same page, the show can ruin your ship, your fanon ship, by making them dating someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what other benefits can be, like. I don't know, other than fan fiction and fan art. That's I don't know, maybe the subtle, the little messages you can spot in the show, like oh my god, they are touching, or she did that, or he did that. Maybe it's just a little thing that you start shipping and creating your own adventure, your own story on that little thing. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think when you ship something that's fanon, you really have a lot to work with in terms of subtleties. You can make a lot out of the smallest contact, the smallest conversation. You can really run wild.
Yeah.
And, when something is canon, you can always write a fix it fic to, explain why you're to correct what canon got wrong. But with fanon, you don't have to do that because if they're not together in the show, you can make whatever you want happen.
Yes, precisely. Yeah,
Yeah. So
that I agree.
that's sort of the pros and cons of
Yeah.
canon ships and fanon ships. So next, let's talk about rare pairs. So can you tell everybody what a rare pair is?
A rare pair is like a couple that doesn't have many fans, so like not many people ship them together.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly correct. So in Criminal Minds, for example, Alex and Emily, I think is still considered a rare pair. It's getting more
Yes.
popular since I've started shipping them, but I think that's a pretty rare pair to see. Um,
Yes.
what are other examples?
Um, I'm thinking about Criminal Minds. Well, I've read in a story Rosie and Reed together.
Um,
That
yeah,
I
I still think that's sort of not quite so rare.
yeah
But I think any ship with Strauss in it is a rare pair,
yeah.
even though it
Arch
is
and
canon.
JJ maybe.
Who? Hotch and JJ? Yeah, that's probably a rare pair still. So yeah, so those are some pretty common examples. Well, I
Yeah.
guess not common, um, but um, so let's talk about some of the benefits and drawbacks of a rare pair. The obvious drawback is because it's considered rare, you don't have as many fans producing content for it.
Yes.
But I think the benefit of that is because there's less people producing content for it, you don't have to compete so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you get more reads because people, have less to choose from. And also, when you're writing something, it's less likely that someone's already written that trope or that scenario. So your work is a little more quote unquote original.
Yes.
Anything else you can think of?
Mm, not really. Maybe there is a bigger chance to make friends in your ship, like
Absolutely.
knowing other people who ship them together.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I first got into the Criminal Minds fandom, Derek and Emily was quite a rare pair. And there were probably, I think, 5 people who were writing regular content about them. And I was one of them. And I knew the
Ooh,
other 4 on some level. Like I would have considered all of us friends separately, So it was really nice. You did know people a little more.
yeah.
Awesome. So next let's talk about crack ships.
Okay.
Okay, can you tell everybody what a crack ship is?
Crack ship, if I'm not mistaken, is like a couple that it's not really believable to be an
Hmm.
actual couple.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
sort of, completely outrageous, doesn't make any sense
Yes.
kind of coupling. So, I think the two that I would consider to be most prevalent in Criminal Minds is shipping Reed with Maps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then there was a period where I saw um, people writing fics about Emily and the bonsai tree on Strauss's desk. Which is
Okay.
the weirdest sentence I've ever said. But there were fics about that. I don't know if they're still out there, but there were at one point in time.
Okay, I've never read them. I've never known they existed until, well, now. But
Yeah, I
okay,
never read them, but I saw them floating around, so that was pretty weird.
okay, nice.
Um, I would also consider um, crack ships sometimes to be characters from two different fandoms that there's no realistic way they could have ever gotten together. Like I did read a fanfic at one point about Hermione Granger from Harry Potter and Ian Doyle.
Oh,
Yeah, it
I
was
missed
actually
that
kind of
one.
interesting, but I would consider that to be a crack ship because there's no, realistic way they would ever have met, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe the actors, but not the characters.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that probably the reason that people would write or create content for a crack ship is because it's fun.
Yes,
There's no you don't have to apply logic to it. You're just writing whatever comes to mind just for the fun of it, and it doesn't have to make sense.
yes,
I've never personally written what I would consider to be a crack ship, but I think there's a lot of fun you can have with it.
yeah. I
Yeah.
could see you writing a ship, fiction on a crack ship. To be
Well, I
honest,
might have to do that one day. We'll see what happens.
yeah.
Always, whenever you kind of push me, I tend to do it. So you're
Okay,
very hard to resist.
okay, good to know.
So next, let's talk a little bit about ship wars. So a
Yes,
ship war is basically when people who ship one ship are sort of actively fighting with people who ship another ship in the same show. Um, I think there's different um, sort of levels of a ship war. There's like ship wars where people who have a canon ship are sort of at war with the people who want to see those characters end up with other people. But
yes,
I also think there's ones where two non-canon ships are sort of, fighting over whose ship is more realistic or more likely to happen.
yeah. Or maybe when there is one character that people see with different in a different couple, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah, yeah. One character in who's in two different ships. Yeah.
Yes.
So, can you give us some examples?
Well, probably the biggest one in our fandom, which is Criminal Minds, are going to be are actually Damini, which is Morgan and Prentice, I mean and Derek, of course, Och and Prentice,
Hmm.
and JJ and Emily. I guess these are the biggest, like right now, in the
Yeah,
last few years.
those are sort of the three biggest opposing ships. I don't know that they're actively fighting, um, but I do think that some of the shippers are more adamant in and aggressive in their
Yeah,
behavior.
yeah, yeah,
And those individual shippers can sort of be at war with other individual shippers.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't know that there's any active ship wars right now in Criminal Minds. I do think that we're seeing a little bit of fandom wank regarding the canon ship of Tara and Rebecca,
Yeah?
because people think it's less deserving of being canon than perhaps Gemily or
Yeah,
JJ and Emily, or a different um, romantic pairing just because other characters may have been there longer. I'm not going to speculate on people's reasoning, but I have seen some pettiness going on, in my opinion.
well, probably right now in this very moment, like when we are recording, it could be like Will and JJ opposite to JJ and Emily.
That's another one that's sort of prevalent right now. Um, I know that there's a lot of Will haters in the fandom, and I don't. I think that a lot of that hate is unwarranted. There's a term for it. I don't know what, I can't remember off the top of my head what the term for it is, but for someone who gets in the way of two characters being together, and that would be Will.
Yeah.
So, um, what would you advise someone who wanted to avoid getting in a ship war? What advice would you give to them?
I don't know, probably just remember it's a show, whether it is a canon ship or a fanon ship, it's just actors playing a character. This is what I think, or at least what I thought the few times I went. I got myself into a ship war, and that's it. Just remember, everyone has their own opinion, and respect everyone's opinion. That's all I can think about right now.
That's
The
great
best
advice. And
advice I can give.
yeah, because you definitely do have to remember that this isn't reality, and there's literally no stakes in this game. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen if your ship never becomes canon? What's the best thing that could happen if your ship never becomes, or if your ship becomes canon? You know, there's very little stakes in this game. Um, and yeah, everybody is a person who is entitled to their own opinion, and you know, you ultimately at the end of the day you can choose to respect their opinion or you can choose not to, but they're still going to be entitled to their opinion whether you want to be mad about it or not.
Yeah.
And I think another really important thing to remember is that um, you're in control of your fandom experience. So at the end of the day, if you see content that you don't like, you have the decision whether or not to engage with that content. And there's always a back button on your browser. There's always a block button on your website. So use them sparingly, or not sparingly, use them judiciously, because, you know, if you don't want to see something negative and you don't want to experience negativity, you have that power. So at the end of the day, you know, you're in control.
Yes. Totally agree.
Yeah. So that's my advice.
Yeah, yeah. Really good one.
So thank you. The next thing let's talk about, with this sort of kind of interlaces with the previous topic, is real life issues in shipping. Now, as you know, insofar as we just said, you know, it's a fictional, show, or it's a fictional
Hmm.
book, there are people who are affected in real life by shipping.
Yes.
So one of them is interracial and persons of character ships. So um, now we're both not people of color, so our
Hmm.
advice here only goes so far. But I think that I've what I've seen people talking about is that people have the tendency to um, undermine or negate ships that involve people of color, um, for the sake of their white ship. For
Yes.
example, um, canon ship in Criminal Minds is Morgan and Savannah, who are both people of
Yes.
color. And I think there was a lot of negativity towards that ship because a lot of people ship Morgan with Reed. So
Hmm.
there was some, an unpleasantness in that. Um, and, like um, JJ, not JJ, Emily and Derek would be an
Hmm.
interracial ship. And, people prefer to see Emily with Hotch or with JJ, who, are white. So I think there's a lot of, of um, I'm not sure what the right word is, but invalidating people who ship these interracial ships or these people of color together. Um, and that's something that people of color who are enjoying a show may experience. Um,
Hmm.
so I think this is definitely a topic we'll maybe have a guest on so we can get their opinion. But this is just something to be in mind. Like you can ship two white characters together all day long, but you aren't entitled to negate a ship involving someone of another race just because you like your ship better, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, totally agree.
Okay. And the next topic we'll talk about is canon sexualities and the minimization of LGBTQ characters.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something we have a little bit more experience with, um, since I'm a member of the LGBT community. So I can speak a little bit more about this. But um, for example, we just saw in Criminal Minds, we just saw Tara come out. Tara, sorry, it's pronounced Tara, not Tara. Um,
It's fine.
and in an interview, um, Tyler is quoted as saying that the character is pansexual.
Yes.
So this is a canon fact now. And for
Mm-hmm.
somebody to then say, oh no, she's straight, is actually invalidating this character's sexuality. And something that people who are LGBTQ experience in real life is people say, oh no, this is just a phase. So people really tend to invalidate our experiences, with being queer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
People really, try and minimize your experience and your identity. And that's something that's not okay to do. If a character hasn't been canonically confirmed as being, queer, yeah, you can say, oh, they're straight, they're bi, or they're gay. But once they become canonically confirmed, I don't think it's okay to do that. What is your opinion?
I totally agree. I mean, I don't know what else I could add because you said everything. It
Okay,
has to be said in the perfect way, and I repeat, I totally agree, like 100%.
awesome. Um, Now, do you want to talk a little bit about what queer baiting is?
So, oh my God, I know what it is, but in this very moment, I have like a blank mind.
Okay.
Probably it's like, mm, oh my God, pass. No, I really,
That's okay.
I
That's
don't
okay.
really remember.
So it's when creators of a show who has a big queer fan base sort of gives you hints that it might be real to get you to watch the show in the hopes that you'll see what you want to see, and then they
Mhm.
take it back and be like, just kidding, they're just friends. So this was a big issue that we saw in Once Upon a Time because
Yeah.
the Spawn Queen audience was very big, and the creators would sort of dangle a hint of it. They show a scene of Regina and Emma together, hoping to get the audience to watch and tune in, thinking that it might become canon, and then they'd be like, no, just kidding, they're friends. So that was a really big issue that we saw. um, and so this is it's important to distinguish that um, queer baiting is can only be done by the creators of the show. It's not something that you can do as a fan. You can't queer bait, because it's not your content. Um, this is something that you have to be mindful of when you're writing characters of, um, the LGBT community.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, and next, let's talk a little bit about actor bullying.
Oh, yes, I believe that's a big problem, like in
Mhm.
every possible way.
Yeah.
Like, well, the silliest example is when you don't like the character, which can happen. Like,
Hmm.
they are actors. They can't choose what they character is gonna do, say, or whatever. But I repeat, they are just doing their job.
Hmm.
So I don't see the point of bullying an actor, a professionist, for is their job. So I totally don't get it. For example, I don't know, like probably it's just my personal opinion. Like when Alex Blake came into Criminal Minds, and it seemed like, correct me if I'm mistaken, the actress who played Alex wasn't really appreciated. Like, she didn't have many fans, but I feel like she had a lot of haters. I don't
I
know,
agree.
am I mistaken?
No, you're totally right. I do think there was a lot of, well, she's not Paget, she's not Emily. This character will never be good enough. This actress will never be good enough. She'll never live up to our expectations. And I do think there was a lot of hate directed towards her that she really wasn't, didn't need because, she came into the role. She never tried to be Emily.
Hmm.
She never tried to be Paget. Um, this was a role that was written and she had very little choice in how it panned out.
Yeah.
But I do think there was a lot of negative energy directed towards her. And, I
Also
think it was
because
totally
she
unwarranted.
wasn't responsible for Paget leaving the show. Like,
Exactly. I think that was a
she
huge
was
part of
just
it.
feeling, it's a bad term, but it's probably the best term that explained the situation. She was just filling a blank. If I know
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
bad, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's totally what was going on. She had no decision in Paget leaving the show. She auditioned for a role and she got it, and that's her job. That at the end of the day, it is an actor's job, and they don't,
yes.
just as much as you might go into a coffee shop and be like, I don't. Well, here I'll give you a real life example. I worked in a bakery, and we had a person come in and say, I'm not going to shop here anymore because you serve this kind of bread and I don't like it. And
Hmm.
like, we didn't, we're a changed bakery. We don't have any choice in what kind of bread we make. And, nobody's forcing you to buy this kind of bread, but you're not going to shop here because you don't like that we serve it. Like, get a grip. That's sort of the same thing here. Like, the actors are just doing a job. At the end of the day, you're wasting your breath and you're just making somebody's life more difficult.
Yes.
Yeah. So the way that this applies to shipping is, I do think that a lot of the time, um, people will feel like they're entitled to, um, you know, bug the actors for content, or why isn't my ship
Hmm.
canon, or do you ship this? And there was a lot of picking at them for hints, or begging them to make a ship canon or something that they don't have control over.
Yes, totally agree. Like, there are character also on Criminal Minds that I didn't really like. You know who I mean? But it's okay. Like, it's a show. It's a job someone has to do. But it's not like I'm like bullying or spamming or whatever I do with the actor and or the actress playing that character I don't really like. So
Exactly.
whatever is fine. Like,
Exactly.
well, it depends like on how open the mind is. Like,
Mhm.
if you keep your mind open, like and realize what the reality is, that's fine. It's just a show, like something that should entertain you, not like make you mad, insane, or whatever.
Precisely. That's exactly what it is. So now let's move into some more upbeat stuff. We're going to talk a little bit
Sure.
about how to ship, and
Yes.
we're going to start out talking about how to pick your ship. So,
Hmm.
what would you say to somebody who is just starting out in fandom and didn't know what ship was for them? What would you say to them?
Well, I don't know. I believe, I mean, for me, it's like you feel it. It's not like something you choose. It's like something. It seemed clear. I mean, based on my experience, it became clear all of a sudden, like, oh my god, these two are meant to be together, at least in my mind. and that's it. It's something you feel, something you vibe, if it makes any sense.
Precisely. I think that's totally what it is. Like, I didn't go into watching Criminal Minds thinking, oh, I'm going to, pick two characters and root for them to get together. But as I watched the show, I saw a lot of chemistry. And, I just sort of felt it in my bones. Okay, I want these two to be together.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just, for example, it happened in other show when I really liked the actors playing the character, and I was like, oh my god, I'd like to see them together, but no, that's it. Like, it was
Yeah,
just a
just,
personal opinion.
rooting for two hot people to make out.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes that's just what it is.
Yeah. I My vision was a little more poetic, but yes, in conclusion, whatever.
Sorry to ruin that for you.
Oh, it's fine. You spoke your mind.
So, I think some important things to note, just based on some of the conversations that I see floating around in fandom, is that your ship doesn't, just because you ship something doesn't mean you condone the character's behavior or the way they treat another character. For example, I liked seeing the interactions between Emily Prentice and Ian Doyle. That doesn't mean that I think in real life, somebody sent undercover should get together with an arms dealer. But I liked their interactions. I liked the characters. I liked their chemistry. And I think there's a lot of interesting potential that could be written from that. So,
Hmm.
just because a character is bad and you think there's interesting content that could be created doesn't mean that you personally think that behavior is okay. You have to have real life, you know, what's the word? Um, just the ability to discern what's real and what's not, and have critical thinking about it.
Yeah. But it's also true that in some ships, the two actors have so much chemistry that it seems it seems like unreal in some way that the two actors are not together in real life.
Yeah.
It's so like vibing that like okay, they must be together or something, but it's just a personal opinion, I repeat.
Yeah. I think another thing that is worthy of noting is that your ship doesn't need to be healthy. There's a lot of unhealthy relationships on TV. There's a lot of unhealthy relationships in real life. Um, but it's not a competition to see, oh, I ship the healthiest relationship. Therefore, I'm the best. I
Yeah.
think that there's a lot of that mentality, especially lately in social justice culture, intersecting with fandom. Um, I think just because something, you just because you like a fictional relationship, again, it doesn't mean that you condone unhealthy behavior in real life. You
Yes.
have critical thinking skills and you're responsible for that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agreed.
Okay. And the third thing is I've seen this a lot lately where it's like people feel like in order to ship something, they need to make like a PowerPoint presentation to explain why their ship is good and worthy of being shipped. Like, you don't need to prove anything to anybody.
Yeah. Well, you can say, express why you ship them, but it's not like okay, like you're making an investigation or something. Like proof A, I
Yeah.
ship them for this and that. Proof B, they must be together because this reason or that reason and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think that there's, this pressure to prove that, it could work in the show or to prove that it could work in real life. And that's totally not the point of shipping. Like, you know,
Hmm.
yeah, I'd like to see my ship become canon, but, you know, maybe it's realistically would never work and I can still ship them. It's all fiction.
Yes, totally agree.
Excellent. Okay,
Okay.
next, do you want to talk a little bit about where to find content and how to find content?
Yes. Well, mainly, I guess it depends on which content you want to find. Like, for example, me, but I guess you too. Um, we are more into fan fiction, but
Mhm.
there is other contexts such as fan art, fan videos, and I can think just about these two, for example. But well, for example, fan videos, a great place is YouTube, of course.
Mhm.
Fan art, I know there is a website for this, but I don't remember what the name is right now. But on Google, just Google it and you're gonna find it, unless you remember the name of the website. It's something with art, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't really remember
DeviantArt.
it. Oh, that's it. Okay, fantastic. Great, thank you. But I guess for fan fiction, there is a lot of content. I mean, a lot of places where you can find them. For example, well, the first one I've found out years ago, it was fanfiction.net. Another one I'm using lately is Archive of Your Own 3 or AO3.
Mhm.
Or there is also Tumblr, uh, Wattpad. There is also, or I remember I've read some on Life Journal, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
and that's it, I guess.
Yeah, so those are some good places to start. Um, and definitely, as you get more involved in fandom and more involved in shipping, you figure out what you like and what you don't like.
Mhm.
And then it's just a matter of figuring out how to navigate these sites and find the content that you like. Definitely the most important thing to use is the tag to filter it by the ship that you like.
Yes,
Um, but yeah, there's definitely, ways to refine these searches. And, this is something that we'll get into on in different episodes where we'll talk a little bit more about these sites and how to navigate them. But
yes.
that's sort of where you start.
Yeah, well, probably the easiest way, like the basic way, is just to Google
Yeah.
like the name of your ship or the character of your ship plus fanfiction or whatever you want to find.
Yeah, precisely.
This
Um,
is how I found them in the beginning.
yeah, exactly. Awesome. So, two more things to touch on before we play a little game
Mhm.
is shipping a character with multiple different characters.
Yes.
So, there's some people who definitely are like this one character and this one character together is the only one that belongs together. But personally, I'm not like that. I'm like, I can see Emily Prentice with Derek, and I can see her with Ian, and I can see her with Alex, and I can see her, with various different people. Um, and that's sort of, it's fun to sort of get into that point in fandom where you're like, you know, I don't need to limit myself by one pairing.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you
Yes.
have any sort of advice for people who are looking to expand their horizons in this way?
I don't know. I mean, I believe I was like 100% into Emily and Derek together. I don't. Probably this is gonna shock you, but that's the truth. Truth. Okay, but then it's always the same thing. Just keep your minds open and like for example now because of someone I'm not gonna say who sponsors this. I'm also shipping Emily and Alex, and that's it. Well, I way more into Emily and Derek because it's like the reason why I've met a lot of people. I've made a lot of friends, but I'm also a lot into Emily and Alex.
Excellent.
Okay.
And the final thing we're going to touch on is having an OT3. So, which is three characters together.
Yes.
Um, I don't know that I've ever like had an OT3 that I was like really rooting for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think sometimes it's fun to explore, how three characters would interact and how they would be in a relationship together and all sorts of different aspects that come into play when you add a third character into your ship.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um, but yeah, I'm not that experienced in this area of shipping, so I don't
But
have a lot
well,
of
you
advice. But
sorry. No, no, go on. I
yeah, so it's just sort of like, you don't have to limit yourself to only two characters together. There's, OT3s and et cetera, et cetera.
but I know you've have written a fantastic fan fiction about an OT3, so
I have. I have. Oh, well, I hope it's good. It hasn't been
it
posted
is.
yet, but
Stop it.
so, you know, it's all just sort of it's all fun and games, experimenting and figuring it out and figuring out who you ship and who you don't. And, you know, it's just trial and error, honestly, finding out what you vibe with and what you don't.
Mm-hmm. Precisely.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
now let's play our little game.
Yes.
So this is sort of like what we had at the end of our last episode. It's we're gonna count up how many of these things we've each done, and whoever has the most points at the end wins.
Yes. So
So
are we
item
keeping
number
scores like about also the previous game, or every episode is a different?
we might have to count them up at the end of a year and see who's done better.
Okay, good.
Okay, so item number one is: have you had an OTP?
I surely did.
Check. Number two: have you shipped a character with multiple people?
Recently, I yes, I have. Last
Awesome.
in the last
I
few
have as
years.
well. Number three: have you had an OT3?
Not really, because I have problem with sharing. So
I
it's
wouldn't
a
say
bit
that I
different.
have, but I've written for one.
Yeah.
Number four: have you written fan fiction about your ship? Check. Number five:
Yes.
have you had a username inspired by your ship?
My very first username on Twitter was inspired by my ship, by my main ship, which is Emily and Derek, if someone didn't get it already. So, yes.
Okay, I have as well. I had a second Tumblr account that had was for Emily and Derek, but I have forgotten the login information for that, so I don't use it anymore.
Okay, good.
Number six: have you shipped a rare pair or a crack ship?
Sort of like I've just started with Emily and Derek. Oh, jeez. Emily and Derek. Jesus, what's my problem today? Emily and Alex. Look, I made
Okay,
it.
so me as well. Have you argued with someone about your ship?
Yes. Like UGS, yes. If it wasn't
Okay.
clear.
Number eight: have you
Have
shipped?
you, by the way? I don't know.
I don't know that I have. I've argued
Okay.
with people, but I don't know that I've argued about the ship itself.
Okay.
So number eight: have you shipped characters from two different fandoms?
Um, I think I kinda have in the very beginning of my experience with Criminal Minds.
Interesting.
But uh, yes, I guess I am. Yeah, for a limited time, like a very very short time, I did.
Okay. So I've written quite a few different one shots that involve characters from two different fandoms. I don't know that I like hardcore ship them, but I have played around with it.
Good.
Number nine: have you made a playlist for your ship?
Um, I started, and by started I mean I have my Spotify account with a playlist named after my ship, which has one song.